Shall not time it. Timeless vision rise up, feel it in your soul. You got the light, let the story unfold. You're not just dreaming, you're living your dream.
Hello, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our Timeless Vision Roundtable. We have a very special guest this evening. I'm honored that he is joining us, Dr. Renaldo Epps. So before I do a deep dive into that, as you all know, this is our Timeless Vision Roundtable. So we got some men's in the room tonight. So ladies, we got to behave, just a little bit. But tonight we are here to talk about legacy and building our businesses the right way, the proper way. What tools do we need? So just to give you a little background on our guest, I would like for you all to welcome me and welcome Dr. Renaldo Octavius Epps. He is the Chief Experience Officer and founder of Dr. Renaldo Epps Consulting Associates, LLC, a respected paralegal firm based in Wilmington, Delaware. Since launching his firm in 2013, Dr. Epps has dedicated his career to helping businesses grow, guiding them through financial planning, technology solutions, and exceptional customer service systems. He is a proud member of the American Bar Association and currently serves as a tax support manager for a Fortune 500 company. With over 15 years of leadership experience, Dr. Epps is known for developing teams and transforming organizations from the inside out. He holds certifications as a paralegal and as an identity theft risk management specialist. And he's deeply committed to personal and professional development, drawing inspirations from the principles of Franklin Covey and Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Dr. Epps believes in the power of structure, mindset, and self-mastery, values that continue to shape his life's mission of empowering others to reach their full potential. So please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Dr. Renaldo Epps. Thank you so much for being here, sir.
Thank you. The check is in the mail. We'll get it momentarily. Just don't cash it until Friday.
Gotcha.
But I want to thank you for that warm welcome, Michelle. And Michelle didn't say too much about herself, but she is a leader in industry growing her business across the United States. So I feel honored and pleasure being here this evening. So I know there are a few gentlemen in the room, and there's a couple of ladies in the room as well. So welcome business owners, welcome female business owners. Female business owners are some of the most powerful, positive individuals that exist on our planet today. You know, you run everything from the boardroom to the bedroom, like as far as making sure that the kids are taken care of, the house is taken care of, the life is taken care of. So I truly give honor and respect to all women that are around me. So honor and respect is given to you this evening as well. So I want to talk about tonight, and you can ask questions, throw your hand up, however you want to do it. You can say, yo, I'm here. I'm a very realistic person. Don't let the title fool you. That I'm here to help. So that's what I was brought on to do. So I want to talk to you tonight more about leaving a legacy and what are you doing in your business to grow. Now, a lot of individuals may not be aware that when they've chosen AI businesses or AI types of businesses, that the business lives on after death. There's a system called the AI-U and the actual you. The AI-U is the individual that continues on past your death, and if you have no way of shutting that AI-U down, the AI version of you will continuously live on. I was looking at an article about, D'Angelo the other day, and his family was literally begging people not to continue to use AI to create images and videos of his songs. And just think about that, not to allow people to create videos and imagery of his song. So that shows you that you technically don't pass away when you think you pass away. I know one of the opportunities that I was lucky enough to see was there were two versions of the Michael Jackson tour after he died. The one was the different people that did that looked like him, that had the body changes and surgeries, and you would have swore you were standing next to Michael Jackson. The other version of the tour was actually 3D hologram of Michael Jackson performing on stage. And when I tell you the 3D hologram was the spookiest thing that I had ever seen in my life, in real life, I couldn't believe it. It had his movements down. You wouldn't have known that it was lights. You would have thought it was an actual person on stage, right down to him stopping and addressing the audience. So the database and the you that's in AI will continue. And my thing for you is, what is your plans to do with the AI you once you pass away? And I know many people haven't given it a thought, but I am going to throw that question out there. So I might volunteer some people to come to the mic to have some thoughts on that. But can you tell me what you would do, Ms. Lena, with the AI version of you once you leave this realm?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
How do you plan on shutting down the AI you once you leave this realm?
Shutting it down?
Yes, the digital version of you.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. Miss Denise, what about you?
Good evening. I'm not sure, but it's actually something I just started thinking of actually in the last week or so. It's
Okay.
something I really have to give
Um,
much thought to.
Thank you for that. I'm going to ask one of my guests, Miss Jasmine Clark. Can you tell us how you would shut down your AIU?
That is an excellent question. I'm thinking now about on my social media how I don't even have it set up where if I was to pass, someone would have access to my account to shut it down but that's what comes to mind, maybe setting up something like that.
Okay. Yeah, shutting down social media. Um, T, if you could you T or Michelle, if you could you give me hosting privileges so I can share my screen? Yeah, shutting it down. One of the things that continues to go through is that individuals, they can't shut their social media down once they pass away, and it causes and wreaks havoc. And what I mean by that, what we found that there's now AI software that can continuously call. There's a program out now that individuals have that's set up where their deceased loved ones call them on their birthday. Even though they're deceased, the loved one is still calling. I find that to be very strange, but people, they do that. And they're using large language models in order to do it. They're using home videos, they're using a bunch of different things. So if you have not yet thought about your estate planning, that should be something that's in your estate planning. Being able to shut yourself off the internet, unless you want to continue, being able to shut yourself down. Because what it does, even though that you're not here, it wreaks havoc on your family. It could allow for theft. It could allow for transfer of wealth that's there to go to somewhere else that could be fake and fraudulent. So I want to talk to you a little bit about, estate planning, just about how to get it together. Estate planning, to understand estate planning, we have to understand what it actually is, because a lot of people don't understand what estate planning is. It's an estate. In this case, your estate is a collection of your personal belongings. It is your car, your house, your bank accounts, your investments, your dividends, your retirement fund, personal items, antiques, collections, and family possessions that you have, that you own. Not all assets pass directly to your estate. One of the things about your business is that people think that when they pass away, that my child will get it, or my husband will get it, or this person will get it. If you don't have that information written down, the state that you live in has a plan that you're not going to like, um, for your stuff, because it has to go through probate, and they have to take a part of their portion before the rest goes to your child. And that's without it being written down. So they don't normally go, oh, that's your child, just give it to them. That's your child. And most of the times, from my experience in dealing with this, the child has to pay taxes. Most wealth is lost in the Black American homes because the children aren't able to keep up with the house payment or the things that the parents have had. so they can't pay the taxes to keep their share of what's theirs. I'm going to give you a lot of personal experiences because this is how I got into this. Um, my cousin recently had passed away about 3 or 4 years ago, and she had a Lexus, and the car had $2,500 payment left on it. That was it. It was one balloon payment. The car was in good running condition. It may needed just a little tad bit of work. I am single by myself. I can't drive two cars. So as I was administrating the estate, I, asked my family members who would be interested in having the car. But all I need for you to do is to pay the last balloon payment, which is the $2,500 to the bank. The bank will send me the title. And once I get the title, I'll send it over to you. Well, the car sat so long in the spot that the bank repossessed the car. And this is how wealth leaves our family and our communities because we don't have action plans in place for things that happen that way. As I was talking to my family member about the situation, I made it very clear that I didn't want two cars in my name, but this is a car that you could take for your children and you could use. And it wasn't like I was even asking for the money. The bank was asking for the money. Um, but they just didn't want to do it. They didn't feel comfortable, and here we lost a product within our life and our family. The purpose of estate planning is to ensure that your assets are passed on to the people that you want to. And this includes your business as well. Many people don't create an exit plan for the businesses that they're looking to grow. You should always have some type of exit plan because at some point you may not be physically able to work that business. And I know you want that business to continue. The three goals of estate planning is managing your affairs during your lifetime, distributing your assets after your death, and minimizing the costs and taxes and the problems that it brings to your loved one. In addition, estate planning can offer healthcare wishes that you cannot make on your own decisions. If a loved one needs to take care of you or become a caretaker, a long-term issue, how do they do that without an estate plan? Um, a lot of us have had a lot of people and they believe, you know what, when I get old, I'll just rely on the state. The state of Pennsylvania has a 6 to 7 year look back time, which means that they go back in the person's financial history to make sure they have not given away anything, such as a house, a home, a car, or any of their money in order for the state to pick that up. If that is the situation, the state will deny coverage for that individual. So Medicare and Medicaid can be turned off at that time, and then it leaves the family with the burden of taking care of the loved one. So how is your business set up to continue on to the next generation, or will it be a burden to your family? So who needs an estate plan? Everyone can benefit from an estate plan. 10 of 10 of us are coming in, 10 out of 10 of us will be going away. I know that some people think that it's a very weird topic, but it's a topic that is true and near. Everyone can benefit regardless of age and or what your wealth is. If the assets that you have passing along, some of the common situations where estate planning is really important. One, if you own a business. Two, if you have a blended family. Three, if you have some family heirlooms and possessions that you want passed down. If you have pets, if you have an estate assets for bank accounts, investments, or own property, or a house, or elderly parents, or family members, or children with special needs, or grandchildren. You know, my question to you is if you're married and you and your spouse go away at the same time due to a tragic accident, who would be the next person to take care of your child? Who would be the next person to take care of your house and your life? I'll give you another example that we've had while I was in school. We've had a person with a special needs child that was on subsidy like Social Security, and the parents passed away, and the child lost their Social Security. You know why? Was because the person that started to take care of them, their income was so high that that child wasn't able to get Social Security. So these are the little nuances that you have to look at when you're beginning to build your business plan and build it into your business so that your business has a continuation. What happens if you don't create a plan? It goes into what we call probate. And probate is a legal process by which the court oversees the distribution of your estates after you pass away. If you pass away without a will, it's called intestate. Probate aims to ensure that your debts are paid and your assets are distributed to appropriate benefits or beneficiaries. If a decedent had a will, the will is not part of the probate, but you have to prove that that will was valid. And if you don't have a will, you'll be considered intestate, in which the court will use intestate laws to help determine where your assets go away. So I like to tell a funny story. There was a woman who she had a husband. The husband was kind of nice. He was wealthy, and he passed away. And when he was alive, all she wanted was a pool in her backyard. And she kept telling her husband she wanted a pool. She wanted a pool. And when he died, she went and got a pool. Well, guess what comes with a pool? A pool boy. So she brought this young man into her home, a pool boy in her house, and she started taking care of him. And, she was using her husband's money to take care of him. Now, I'm sure if her husband was still alive, he wouldn't have allowed that to happen. But when something happened to the lady, guess who got the inheritance? The pool boy. So it moved all of the money out of her family heirloom or her system and moved it to someone else's. And while we laugh and joke about these things, a lot of times we go to funerals and people are fighting over, mama wanted me to have this necklace and daddy wanted me to have this ring, and I need this or I need that. So these are things that you want to make sure that you have in place before you leave here with your business. There are the types of estate planning documents that we work on with us. One, we do our last will and testament. The last will and testament is a love letter to your family, telling them what you want to have done with your personal information. Who's the guardian for your minor children? Who will work to represent you and represent your estate? And there's a thing called a financial power of attorney, which is the document that gives individuals the right to do and transact business in your name. Now, I know it's really hard to talk about, but a lot of individuals do not understand that husbands and wives do not have the same power financially in a family that you may think. So if you're married and you have a bank account and your wife or your partner disappears or your husband goes away, that doesn't necessarily give you access to that account, even if it's in your same name. I'm going to give you another story that happens in my family. My grandmother, she was married for a long time. She separated from her husband when I was very young. I only met the man one time. When she went to retire, to take her pension out, they told her she had to give half of it to her husband, who she had not been with in over 30 or 40 years at that time. That's because under the laws of marriage at that particular moment, that is community property and she was still legally married. So you may have individuals that have been married once or twice in their lives, hopefully not three times. I do have some three-time people there, but hopefully not three times, that money has to go to the first lineage of the first wife, and it might leave out the second wife or the third wife because they didn't put anything into play. It's the exact same with your business. What if you have a partner in your business that can't run that business because you're no longer there and you haven't given any instructions in your business too? And that's including the AI version of you as well. So we talk about the financial power of attorney. We talk about a healthcare power of attorney. Now, healthcare power of attorney is really important. Some of us that have been on here, I don't know if you remember Terry Schiavo. Terry Schiavo lived in Florida. Her husband did not want her to pass away. They kept her on a feeding tube. No, her husband wanted her to pass away. Her family kept her on a feeding tube. She was legally married. She stayed on the feeding tube, and they kept her alive for almost 20 years. When it was all said and done, the husband finally won the court case. They were able to take out the feeding tube. She passed away peacefully, but what they found out during the autopsy, that she had been dead for 20 years. She had died a long time ago. It was only the machines that kept her on and the nourishment of the medicine that kept her body going, but she had physically died. So we don't want to have those arguments within our business, or we don't want to have those arguments within our lifetime and in our family. Then we help you with doing a living will, an advance directive, to make sure that your end of life treatment is exactly what you want. Now, this is the big part in owning a business. We do a thing called a revocable trust. A revocable trust, it helps go past probate. So as your business is growing, you have in money and homes and cars, you can put this information into a revocable trust. That revocable trust allows you to transfer some ownership, but you keep control of the item, but you transfer the ownership to another individual. So when you leave, that individual already owns that item, and it keeps that item from going through probate. So if you're a homeowner, I'll give you right now, if you're a homeowner And then if you look in the city of Philadelphia, if you pass away and your kids want to inherit the home, they have to pay like a 1.75% tax on the home. If the child doesn't have the money or you don't have any type of life insurance can flip that bill is then left to the child. Where if the information was in a revocable trust, you maintain ownership of it while you're alive, but you do give partial ownership to that child, and you can take that back at any time. So it doesn't stay with that individual while they're alive. You can say, hey, I need it right now for myself. You can take it back and you can use it and you can put it back for the child as you go through. So I want to kind of open the floor up after this, but I do want to tell you one story that we had here in Philadelphia. There was a young lady that she needed to have she wasn't young, I'm sorry, she was an older lady. She was about 85, 86, and she had cancer. And she needed to have her last will and testament done because she had information that she needed, make sure her kids. Her daughter was with her, and her daughter called for our services to have her last will and testament done while she was in hospice. And the law firm came out to meet with her to make sure she was of sound mind before she signed all of the documents that was necessary and notarized everything while she was alive. 15 minutes after she signed the documents, she passed away. What we firmly believe is that she was holding on to make sure that all of her information was dealt with correctly and that her kids were taken care of. And her daughter said to us that when she passed away, she knew she had to hold on to make sure everything is okay. My question to you this evening, and you don't have to answer out loud, but are you prepared to keep your family intact, keep your business intact, and keep your family where you want it to be as you're growing your wealth? So with that, I'm going to open the floor to have some conversations and roundtable because I know it is a roundtable. You can ask me any kind of questions that you want to. I must preference it that I am not an attorney. I am a paralegal. I will be an attorney within the next 2 years. So some questions I can't answer, but I would like for you to also seek out the information of an attorney in your state or area or your specialty of law. So thank you so much for allowing me to share.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful presentation. Talking about this topic is not necessarily the easiest for some of us, right? We don't necessarily want to talk about the ultimate factor, but being that we are in this realm of building up businesses, building up, our story, we're pretty much the authors of how we want it to be told. That's while we're here and even beyond that, right? Um, Personally, I'm a mom of two. I'm a wife. I have multiple businesses that I have to think about and worry about in regards to how am I going to set that up for my children. I have the conversations. Even before this call, I had told my oldest son, I said, listen, I said, I'm going to be talking about legacy tonight. And he looked at me. I said, I know you might not necessarily want to talk about it, but I'd much rather you be prepared than not in trying to figure out what it all looks like afterwards. Right? I've been in that boat. I've seen what that looks like. I'm pretty certain at some point we all have experienced it in some form or fashion. And it's not fun. So Dr. Epps, I thank you for coming on tonight, sharing this wealth of information. But you guys, if you have any questions, I definitely am urging you to ask them tonight and get some insight. Get some insight for your own development and for your own family. So floor is definitely open. T.
Okay, we all know that when we do a POA is usually a financial POA and a physical POA. Now, since the AI world is really big now, how can we also in incorporate that within a POA?
So
Because
are you addressing your business or are you addressing how your business is run daily while you have a power of attorney?
I'm asking how would my business run daily because you're still getting income into these businesses. It's like if you were working a 9 to 5. So how would we set that up also into and putting that into a POA? That somebody has to take care of our financial part and our medical part.
So in that case, you can use a power of attorney, or you can actually bring on a business partner or a partner that has the right to be a signing partner with inside of your organization that can handle those daily things and run the organization as need be. So you can create a signing partner. You can do a partner agreement. You can do a power of attorney if your business is not big enough. Just for that power of attorney, what's called a limited power of attorney, which would just give them the rights to run the business. It wouldn't give them the right to do anything for you personally. Also, what I always caveat and tell people about power of attorneys, power of attorney ends the minute you stop breathing. Power of attorney does not carry on past death. So the minute that you stop breathing, the power of attorney ceases to exist. And normally this is where the fiasco begins.
Well, with that being said, if a person doesn't have a will, but what is it, a trust that is a little stronger than a POA?
Well, they're two separate documents. One is when you're alive and one is when you're deceased. So the power of attorney, however it's written, handles the avenues and aspects for you while you're alive, such as paying your bills, writing the information down, making sure that your household runs, that your business runs. Once you go, it is done. At that point, a trust or whoever is the executor of the estate, if there is an executor in a will be in charge of making sure that the information or the business is dissolved effectively within inside of the laws of the state. Also, I'll caveat that too, because you can pick someone to be an executor, but they're given a really thick book by the courts because they have to be sworn in by the court and they have to do timely reports by the court in order to make sure that the dissolution of the property that's left behind is done correctly, and they have to turn in the paperwork every year to make sure that it's okay until it's dissolved down to zero. So making sure that you have a will or you have something in place so that person knows what to do is great. If you want your property to continue on with a child or another adult or your partner, it's also, I implore you to have some type of trust in place, revocable or irrevocable, that gives that right to that next person that's still alive to carry on your behalf.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I have a quick question.
Mhm.
As you stated, the example for a child that receives Social Security benefits, what would be the best way to protect those benefits, be it, the parents pass away?
So one of the best ways to protect those benefits is to have someone put in place through a trust or have your child, because we can do what's called minor trust for minor children that will not have their benefits removed based on the income of the new adult that they're moving in with or that they're being taken care of. And also you can write in that trust that that money is only designed to take care of that individual child, not the caretaker of said child.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question so far. So I am going to, oh, T, go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything.
I was going to ask one person to come to the front that has been going through this lately, that has taken the advice that we've given them, and it has worked extremely well for them. They didn't know I was going to call them on the spot. So I'm just going to ask Mr. Selby if he could talk about 2 minutes about using the services that we offer in order to help him with the situation that he was going through. Mr. Selby, are you here?
Excuse me, I am. Thank you for the opportunity to share. Yeah, I've been using the services for many years, but in regards to the topic of tonight, um, my mother, I am her power of attorney. And, I've been handling different things as it relates, as Dr. Epps has talked about tonight. Uh, it's been a powerful thing to have this service and to be able to reach out in her behalf and talk to the attorneys. uh, the law firm has different attorneys, uh, some that specialize in real estate, some that specialize in business and things like that. So, and I'm using, the service now to help her. So it's been a great asset for me to be able to have this service to entrust my mother wishes and to make sure that those wishes are being met on a daily basis. I'm not an attorney, so I do not um, understand fully the legal system and how it works. But again, great service to have. I agree with Dr. Epps. This is something that everyone should have. Unfortunately, we see things on TV and we talk to different people who don't necessarily know what they're talking about, their intentions. I'm sure can be coming from a place of care. But when you're dealing with the legal system, you need the facts. So thank you very much, and I turn it back over.
Thank you, sir. And there is some information in the chat as well. Any additional questions? It is a roundtable, so you ladies can talk. I want to hear everybody's voice.
Yes, definitely. Now is not the time to be shy. And I know y'all can chit chat.
Right?
I'm
Um,
not shy, but I'm sitting here just amazed because this conversation has been a real priority within especially this last month in our family. Um, all of the generation above us, they have all deceased, and we have actually seen the benefits of how my mother and her sisters and all of them took care of their business. When everything happened, the transition occurred. I mean, we didn't have to do anything, it was all there. We had all known about it. But this generation I'm in now, and including myself, we have not. We've got the paperwork. My cousin, just Sunday, he was speaking to me about this very same thing, Claret. And I tell him, listen, I said, I will not have millions of dollars to leave anybody. I have insurance policies set up and I have my hobbies. I have quite a bit involved with my hobbies, my sewing machines and things like that. And, you know, they all know what I do, but just like you said, I can just envision, you know, they're not gonna know what to do with any of this. Not one single thing. And then the situation is whoever that I would possibly leave things to, them having it sit because I'm in a situation where I live with my oldest daughter. And I say, just like everybody says, oh well, I've discussed. Discussion means nothing. So my cousin and I have set a date because I have friends who are, attorneys. We have an attorney in our family. He's the one that gave us, our paperwork and everything to start working on. It's just like you said, the decision. I tell my cousin, I go to bed like I'm assured I'm going to wake up in the morning. That's not true. And then, they have a joke around here. My one kids, I want to be cremated. And then my one daughter says that my daughter will have them in the jewelry, because now they say you can do jewelry out of the cremation. When they said she'll have us in jewelry and rings and, all this other kind of stuff. And, they laugh. I don't want to earn, those kinds of things. But this, you talking has just reinforced. I am not going to keep it on the back burner, um, because like I said, I've seen it. The one cousin I'm talking to, he's just has his things down to the letter T, you know, and it has to be done. It's just something has to be done, and I, you know, I don't know why. I think that I guess it's the finality, the recognition of the moral part. I'm going to be gone. I'm not going to be here. But it's a decision. But I am, like I said, I'm not only in the process. I mean, here this week, I have gotten all my insurance paperwork out. I have everything taken care of. I've got the numbers down and everything. One daughter will be my power of attorney medically, and then there will be another daughter. Now, what we just did find out, I went to call the bank to have credit union to have my checking account and all that other kind of stuff put in my daughter's name, and she just the lady told me at the credit union, she says get an attorney because it's more than you just putting her name on your bills in this credit union, you know. And then another one has told me about as far as the will thing. Write it out, you know, have it witnessed, get it to the attorney so that there can be, a filing. I guess the one question I want to ask, what about actual goods? Like my sewing machines. I would, how does that work? Do I just have someone down to receive those goods, or do those things, should they even be put in a trust? Let me be real honest with you even saying that, because it's more than a couple dollars that are invested in some of my equipment. I've never considered a business because it's like a hobby. I've never actually sold anything that I have sewn because we're always giving it to someone, or, letting different organizations use it for gifts. I don't want to keep talking here. They all know I can talk. So I guess I want to be really specific about my sewing machines and those types of items, in a will situation.
So you can thank you, Ms. Bell, for that information, and thanks for that clarity, and thanks for helping bring it to life. I will tell you it depends on the value of the machines, if they need to be entrusted, if there's a tax that may, go along. But if it's just a, item or a good, that can be put in the will, spelled out to who you would like that to go to and for what reasons and why. And that's who it would go to.
Okay. All righty.
So if
And
you,
then could I also say like if I would necessarily say, well, I want this to go to daughter X, but if it's not taken care of or removed out of residence, I put those kinds of stipulations, that'll possibly go to someone else, or just say then if it's not recouped or moved or whatever, then X daughter can just sell it.
well, no,
But
you
then if I'm putting a dollar amount, then that's what.
yeah. So once
Mhm.
you're gone, you can't tell them what to do with it.
Gotcha.
While you're here, and
Yeah, I hear you.
decide who you want to give it to, you can make that known that, hey, I want to give this to my daughter. I want to give this to my daughter C, and she can have it, and then she can do whatever she wants to do with it at that point. Another thing that a lot of individuals may be unaware of is that if the person precedes you in death and you wrote them into your will, it goes into their estate for their estate to do with as their estate sees need. Or you could have a situation where the person could precede you in death and you've written your will to that individual, and then it just turns again into a major situation. So it's great to consult with an attorney, and you may want to have more than one person to that item. You may say, this item will go to daughter A, and if daughter A is unable to take the item, it can then pass to daughter B.
Okay.
Something of that situation. If you believe that daughter B will get more use out of it, but
Okay.
it's easier than having your kids fight at the end, B and C fighting, because they probably kill each other themselves. But having them fight at the end and to get to something that makes absolutely no sense for them to be fighting over.
Correct. I understand that. Insurance policies, are those just pretty much cut and dried?
Yes. So insurance
Okay.
policies, by law, they have to go to the designated beneficiary that's noted inside of the said policy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a thing. Also, I would tell everyone to make sure someone has the information that when you leave here, they have access to your phone, your Facebook, your digital database so they can contact family, friends, and relatives. Make sure they have access to keys to your home. Make sure they know where the paperwork, you don't necessarily need to give it to them, but they need to have access to it so they know where it is. Too many individuals pass away and then they stumble upon the paperwork years later as they're cleaning out the individual's house because they had no idea that, Aunt Clara had a will somewhere. She never told anybody and she's not here to tell us. And then they find it years later. So it's very important that you have someone, either take it in and turn it into the recorder of wills in your county to make sure that it's been recorded, and then give a few copies of it out to individuals so that if something was to happen that they'll be able to find it.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. I don't take things by happenstance. You know what I mean? This information is being presented at this particular moment for whatever reason. It doesn't mean I'm going to die, but I mean, the information is here, and like I said, that since we've been taking this and thinking about it, and the ages of everyone in the family, and just you know I appreciate it. I had hoped that a couple of my family members had been on here because we had been, discussing this, and some of them are still in discussion. I'm not in the discussion time. I'm in the action period right now myself,
And
and I
T,
thank you.
thank you. T, I see you said and passwords and websites. I do want to talk about that really quick. So I don't know if you all are from like the Philadelphia greater region or in the greater region around this way or anywhere about that. I know you're an international group, but how many of you guys remember when you could go into the bank and you didn't even need to show identification to the teller because the teller knew who you were? And they would just say, "Oh, hi, Miss Bell. How are you? You want to put money in your money market club, your Christmas club?"
Mm-hmm.
Now, since we don't do that anymore, everything is an app, everything is online. We're lucky if we could talk to a human. You know, they look like this person, but their name is Sally, and all this other kind of weird stuff. And now we don't have the same personal skills. So you can't walk into a bank and someone says, "Oh, you were the
Question?
individual or you were that person." So now it's really important that you have the documentation prepared so that that question could be answered. And keep in mind that it's not instantaneous. It still has to go through their legal department to be validated. So you can do your will and stuff like that, and it still has to go through whatever bank or financial institution to be validated. And that's the power of having the documents prepared professionally. And Miss Bell, you can jump back in too. And now, guys, one of the things that I tell everybody, a lot of people tend to want to go to use AI to draft a will, or they tend to want to use some type of online service to draft a will, or they'll go to Staples and buy a will in a box. Um, I will tell you that that's not good. There are certain marks that need to be on the will in a certain sequential area. There's certain ways that the pages need to be put together. There's certain places where you can't staple it. So if it's not presented correctly to the state, they may decline it. Not every will is meant to be designed for every state. So I know Pennsylvania requires you to initial every paragraph. Delaware does not. So there's a whole bunch of little things. There might be a testament page of the notary that the person is signing to testify that they're of sound mind for the person that they're doing it. That maybe it need to be attached to the will. Some states it does not. Some states require that if the will is attached, that it's done on the right hand corner with one staple. So it's a whole bunch of little rules and regs. So I wouldn't tell anybody to get something out of the box or use AI to try to draft a document that has legal ramifications. And if you do, please have that document reviewed by an attorney for complete and to make sure that it's 100% legal in the area that you're in. Ms. Pegram.
Thank you for that.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
Oh, this conversation is so on point. I was asked to speak earlier this week, and I just picked a topic right away for group Sassy Seniors on getting your life organized as a symbol of love to your family members. So just as you're saying, getting documents, even when you asked, what would I do with my digital life? That's something, like I said, I just started thinking of a few days ago because of having that talk. And something that came up recently with like bank accounts, because you said give someone, or a few people, however you decide to do it, access to passwords and things like that. So something that I'm trying to wrap around my head is now we use vision,
Thumbprint.
facial eye recognition,
Mhm.
fingerprint. So my husband had asked me to move some money from one account to the next, and I said, "Oh, I didn't do it." He said, "Well, why not? You have all the information." I said, "Because now with the new multi-factor authentication, you have that for that account going to your phone, and you are nowhere around. So I needed you to be nearby because you put it in. If you don't respond in a certain amount of time, I know for myself, I did that on a credit card of mine, but I don't know, my purse, whatever, wasn't around at the time. So I was like, oh, I won't think about it. It was a card I didn't use much. When I went to go use it, they had pretty much locked it down. When I went to the bank, I said, well, what's going on? It says, oh, it looks like you didn't respond to one of the things. I knew it wasn't fraud or anything because I remember saying, oh, I'll get to it. But I don't even think people realize things like that with the facial recognition, thumbprints. Like I have all the passwords and everything, but I still would have had to go to the bank or whatever had he not come home because I still didn't have access because now he had stuff locked down with his phone. Same thing with mine. Like he wouldn't be able to get to it because of the different types of multi-factor authentication where the code actually goes. So do you have any recommendations for that or?
So, baby, the phone. The phone, the phone, the phone. The phone is the number one major issue when it comes to end of life. The phone houses your bank account, it houses your information, it houses a lot of things. Whether if you decide to, if you know, and I say this lightly, but some people can't do it. Maybe registering your fingerprint on your spouse's phone so that if something was to happen to your spouse, that they can get into it. Um, Putting down your email address as a secondary email address on their iTunes account so that if you ever have to send a code to your phone, you can get it yourself if they were not around. Making sure there's a continuation plan for your software or your phones or your devices with whoever you get them from. Talk to T-Mobile, make sure they're on a family plan. AT&T, they're on a family plan that you may have access to that device. um, ensuring and even asking the phone company, what is a backup plan that if I need to have access to this device, if my spouse is not around and I need to get into it, how do I get into it? Or how do I be able to open it and access it? The phones have been the number one issue that we've seen in the legal world because they're so locked down by rules and regs, and companies tend to lock them tight that when something happens to an individual, they can't get in. No, also what I would definitely tell you, every cell phone has this. They have what's called an emergency screen. Like you probably hit it sometimes by mistake and it says it only can dial 911. On that emergency screen, make sure you have your next information, like contact this person in case of an emergency, allow them to do X, Y, and Z. This is my blood type. I know for Android, I use Android. In Android, it does have a section where you can put all your medical information. Yup, the legacy program, the legacy contact
Okay.
access for iPhones. Yeah, I know it's something that they have. In Android, you can have all of like your blood types, medications, all of that stuff put on the phone so that if you are injured in an accident and someone picks up your device, they don't have to go into it, but they can see all that important information that may help save your life and who to call, and make sure that the person that has it has some kind of access to get into it in case you're not here or unable to speak. Now, I know I keep saying you're not here. When I say you're not here, I want to, make it a little brighter. You may not be able to communicate. So it doesn't mean that you died. It just means you may not be able to communicate, such as through a stroke or such as through a TIA or another type of accident, which doesn't allow you to talk. You're still here, but if you don't have the way to access that stuff, you want to make sure someone else can access it for you.
Thank you for that. So you said have your spouse's fingerprint maybe on another phone. Is that something that I would contact the phone company to do, or that you could just set it up to have
You could do
more
it
than
on
one fingerprint?
more than one fingerprint on
Okay,
each one
didn't
of
know
your
that.
devices. Now,
Thank
I
you.
want you to come back at me, Denise, throwing phones at me. But some
No,
people,
no, I really wouldn't have a problem doing that with my spouse, but I didn't even know, because I don't even use the fingerprint type of thing, because I always kind of think, I know that it's quick to get into the phone, but I also think, like, as a woman, I travel really early morning by myself or whatever. I just think about if I'm held up or something, all somebody got to do is put the finger, whatever, just easy access to, so I just don't do it. I'd stick with a password or whatever. Might be crazy, but um so I hadn't even considered like that you could do a multiple fingerprint. So that's something I'll discuss with my husband right away, as well as with my parents and his parents.
yeah, some type of multiple fingerprints on their device.
So if I can piggyback on what we're talking about right now, um, just to let everyone know, and you can do this on Android devices, you can do this on iPhone. I have both. So with the iPhone, you go under security, and then you go to what's called legacy contact. So I'm going to read to you exactly what it says there. Legacy contact. A legacy contact is someone you trust to have access to your data in your account after your death. That's pretty much what we're talking about right now. So, um, if anyone knows how Apple works, Apple is security is very, very tight. You lose your password, that's a problem. you know, they're just not going to unlock the device. They're just not going to give you access to it. And Android does the same thing uh, to a certain extent. So, what we're talking about tonight is how you can legally get access to these devices and control that data, delete it, save it, whatever it is. So, again, if you have an iPhone, and Dr. Epps and myself can research it for Android, and we can share that information with everyone. Uh, but if you have an iPhone, you just go right under legacy contact and you would set that up. And at the time of, this person not being able to communicate or the time of death, you would have access and be able to control what's done with that data.
And I'm I'm going to close by also saying that this has no age. This has no age at all. Um, please don't think that it's an older person conversation. It could be a young person conversation up to the age of 18. To have this conversation, I'm going to give you in my closing. I'm going to give you a story about my friend named Tally. Tally was, we were probably about 21, 22 around the time. Tally worked in Wilmington, Delaware at a bank. Tally hung out with us at a nightclub, and Tally was not a drinker at all. He didn't drink. On his way home from Wilmington, Delaware to Philadelphia, he crashed his car by falling asleep on I-95 in Chester. The light pole that he crashed into came down and crushed the car. Tally was unidentifiable at that particular point. Tally had moved from Wilmington to Philadelphia maybe 2 weeks earlier. Because I was the last number in his phone, they contacted me. I had to explain it to Tally's parents, and they didn't even know where Tally lived at in Philadelphia. They had no idea where he lived. They didn't know where his personal belongings were. They couldn't find anything that belonged to him. It took us a while to start putting pieces together. And this is the reason why I do this type of business, because I've seen those things happen to individuals, not based on age, just time and time again, where issues happen and parents and loved ones are not able to grieve properly because their individuals don't have the necessary documents in order. So I don't want you to think that it's a young or old situation. It could be any one situation. So I'll give you examples again, like kids when they go off to college and they're 18, they have the right to access their own stuff. If something was to happen to your child and they're in college and you don't have a power of attorney over said child, you can't get any information back. The child has to give permission at the school for you to even be able to talk about the financial status of the child while they're at school. There's a specific form that the child has to fill out, or the young adult, I'll say, has to fill out so that the parents can have a conversation in relation to the money at the school. So organizations will take this seriously, so I'm just looking for our community to take it as serious as well. And I'm open for any questions, but if not, I think we spent a good hour on this, and I am available. Michelle and T know how to get a hold of me. Dean knows how to get a hold of me. If you would like to sit down and have this conversation further, or find out a way to begin to put your legacy together. So I thank you for your time. I turn it back over to Michelle.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Epps. Very valuable information shared tonight. Um, again, I just wanted to mention I dropped a link in the chat if you guys want to look further into estate planning, excuse me, via the service Legal Shield. But this has been a really great conversation, and I hope it's a conversation that really gets you thinking about what exactly your future is going to look like. You know, it's great that we can come online and we can make all the things and they look pretty and they look nice, or we can make a generator and, do all the things. But we're not doing this in vain, right? We are working each and every day, building a legacy, working on our businesses, working on our mindsets, trying to better ourselves. And with all that work that we're doing, our family deserves to see it and how it paid off. Be it taking care of our grandchildren, our children, our spouses, etc. So once again, I thank you. I thank each and every one of you for joining us this evening. As y'all know, I do not take your time lightly. I honor it and I value it, and I am grateful for it, because you could have been doing anything else, but you decided to join us tonight and have this conversation and get those wheels turning on exactly what is your legacy going to be. All right. Does anybody have any questions or comments before we wrap up for the evening?
I would think we have to pull on Dr. Epps one more time, and that's more so to gear to our business. And with the LLCs and the EIN numbers and the legalization behind that as well. But tonight was very interesting because I, for 4 years, had to do the POA thing with my mom. And it wasn't a pretty thing because I did have a sibling that, bumped heads, but I wish I knew some of that information then, but I know it now. And I will not have to put my child through that, what I was put through. So that's what I
And
have to say.
that's leaving a legacy. So with that, I'm going to bid everyone a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night and
Take
thank
care.
you.
Good
Bye,
night.
guys.
Shall not timeless, timeless vision rise up, feel it in your soul. You got the light, let the story unfold. You're not just dreaming, you're living.